Hi guys, my name is Shikha and welcome to my channel Shikha Reads. Today I have a book review video for you and I'm going to talk about two books. First is Circe by Madeline Miller and second one is Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. Both these books were sent to me by Bloomsbury India for review. At first I thought that I'll only talk about Norse mythology because I have already reviewed Circe on my blog. But then I decided against it because, as you can tell, both these books are mythological retellings. Yet the way these authors have approached the subject, it is so different that I was completely blown away and I wanted to share that experience with you. Circe is one of those books which people will remember for a very long time. I won't be surprised if someday it turns into a classic. It's definitely part of my top 5 favorite books of 2018. And you know what? This book deserves to be talked about again and again, and that's what I'm going to do today. I'll talk about Circe first and then I'll talk about Norse mythology. Madeline Miller has written two books till now, I think so. First one is Song of Achilles, which is a retelling of Homer's Iliad. I haven't read the book, but judging by Circe, I'm going to read it very soon. And second one is of course Circe, which is a retelling of Homer's Odysseus. But trust me, as far as the similarities go, it ends with the name. It's not just a retelling, it's much more than that. It's a completely new story. First of all, the story unfolds from Circe's point of view. We follow her journey as a minor goddess who is belittled by her family members. Then after a few chapters, we get to know that they're afraid of her power, so they banish her to live alone on a secluded island. But rather than just fading away in solitude, she takes this as a challenge and builds a completely new life for herself on that marooned island. And that's the beauty of this story. Now that's what I'm going to tell you about this story, because you need to read this book to enjoy Madeline Miller's beautiful storytelling format. There's this one thing which I want to mention. Many people may recommend you to read the original tale before you read this book, but I think it's not necessary. It'll only confuse you. So if you haven't read Odysseus, just forget that and read this book, because all the mythological details which you need to understand this story, it's available in the book itself. But once you finish this book, then read Odysseus and suddenly you will realize that the original tale feels like mansplaining after that. You can clearly observe that all these tales and poems only glorify valor of heroes and they cast away women as witches or negative influences just because they are afraid of their powers. Miller has included so many Greek characters and monsters in her story like Scylla, Minotaur, Icarus, Daedalus and of course Odysseus, but Circe's story just took my breath away. Her writing style, Madeline Miller's writing style, not Circe's, it's so wonderfully descriptive that I was able to visualize all the places which I mentioned in this book, like Island of Aiaia, Underwater Palace, Minos' Island, and I'm sorry for butchering all these names, but it was as if I was walking beside Circe on those mythical lands. What I like most about the story is that although Circe is a goddess, a water nymph, a sorceress, she is depicted as a human being, someone who is driven by her emotions. She loves, she hates, she admonishes, she admires, she even gets jealous, and all these feelings together takes this story to a completely different level. Also, whenever someone thinks about Circe, they only focus on her relationship with Odysseus as if this is the only focal point of her life, which is kind of weird because one incident cannot describe a person. But this book actually focuses on other parts of her life, like her childhood, her relationship with her parents, her brothers and sisters, her extended family. Of course, Odysseus is there because he is part of her life. A significant part, but just a part. So that was all about Circe. If you guys want to know more, you can read the review on my blog. And now let's move on to Norse mythology. As I said, both these books are mythological retellings, but they're completely different in their approach. When it comes to Circe, Madeline Miller took a character out of Greek tales and created a completely new story, but within the parameters of Greek mythology. Whereas Norse mythology is a simple and lively retelling of Nordic tales, just like it says on the cover. What Gaiman has done is he picked up 15 different Scandinavian mythological tales and he presented them in a storytelling format. This here is a new paperback edition published by Bloomsbury India, and as I told you in my last video, I completely love this new cover. Usually while reading a book, I skip over the introduction part, but with this one it was different. I read the first chapter and then I went back to introduction because I wanted to know about Gaiman's point of view. From there, I got to know that he picked up these stories from a 13th century Icelandic poetry book called Edda. Trust me when I say that I'm thankful that he wrote this book for people like me, because I read the translated edition and it was definitely not my cup of tea. Before reading this book, I knew very little about Norse mythology. I read like 1 or 2 children's stories about these gods, but I definitely didn't know about Ragnarok or Nine World concept. My knowledge was pretty much limited to Thor and Loki and little bit Odin. A significant portion of this book is dedicated to world building. First, we are introduced to the nine world concept, then, we are introduced to the gods, demons, ogres, and whatnot, and then finally, the stories begin. Personally, I enjoyed both the portion, world building and stories, but if you think that the world building portion is too much for you, you can read few pages and then move on to the story part. The best character award of this book definitely goes to Loki, and let me tell you a little secret. I received this little Funko Pop keychain in a book box. At that point of time, I was not that thrilled. Of course, I liked it because it was my first Funko Pop keychain, but I didn't love it. But now that I have read few of his stories, I'm completely digging this keychain. He's just so mischievous. I know he's supposed to be a villain, but he feels like a more fun character, a chilled out and cunning god who is more into wine and trickery. He doesn't create chaos because he wants to take revenge. It's more like, hey, why is everybody so quiet? Let's make some noise. I don't know if you watch Supernatural or not. I used to watch it at one point of time, and there was a character in that series called Gabriel, aka Loki. And Loki in this book is more like that character. He is a chaos loving trickster. Keeping aside Loki, all the other gods are also well defined. They have their own personality and quirks which make them much more lively. This is one thing which is missing in Edda. I know I shouldn't compare these two books because apples and oranges. One is a 13th century poetry book and another one is a 21st century story book. I think what I want to say is please read this one because it's much more simpler. This book begins on a lighter note. Like in the beginning, all the stories are funny and interesting, but slowly as we move forward and we approach Ragnarok, things become much more darker. Basically, we begin from the beginning, we are introduced to the world building, the characters, and then slowly we are taken to the end. So within these 260 pages, we complete the whole circle of life. Okay, so that was my review of Circe and Norse mythology. I gave both the books 4 out of 5. If you have watched any of my previous videos, I mentioned in one that I'm not a big fan of retelling because of their repetitive nature. I think that's why people say never because these two books completely changed my opinion, and I think I'm going to read more retellings from now on. And now it's time for me to announce the winner of my 500 subscribers giveaway, and the winner is Bookish Wong. Congratulations! Please send me your address and contact details so that I can send you the book as soon as possible. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please turn on that notification bell so that whenever I upload a video, you get notified. Also, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.